Have you ever wondered why some people just don't like you and they'll never even admit why? Maybe you walk into a room and the energy shifts. Maybe someone gives you a strange look, avoids eye contact, or even acts nice on the surface, but deep down you can sense the tension. The truth is, most of us have felt that quiet, unspoken dislike from others at some point in our lives, and it leaves us questioning ourselves. Did I do something wrong? Did I offend them without realizing? Or is there something about me that just rubs people the wrong way? Here's the twist. It's not always about what you did. In fact, most of the time the reasons people secretly hate you have little to do with your mistakes and everything to do with what you represent to them. Hate is often silent, subtle, and hidden behind fake smiles, but once you learn how to recognize it, you'll start to see it everywhere. And knowing the truth gives you back your power, because instead of shrinking yourself to be liked, you'll understand the deeper psychology behind why people react the way they do. So today I'm going to reveal 8 hidden reasons why people might secretly hate you. These aren't the obvious ones you've already heard 1,000 times. They're the ones that creep in under the surface, the ones no one talks about openly. Some of them might surprise you, some of them might hit a little too close to home, but all of them will make you see your relationships differently. And by the end you'll realize that being hated isn't always a bad sign. It might actually mean you're doing something right. Ready to uncover the truth? Let's get into it. The truth everyone forgets. The truth is, no matter how kind, generous or genuine you are, someone out there simply doesn't like you. And here's the thing, you don't always get to know the reason. You could bend over backwards to be polite, show nothing but respect, and still, someone will decide you're not their type of person. It's one of those harsh realities of life that nobody warns us about growing up. We're taught that if you're nice, people will like you. But the world doesn't work that way. Think about it. Even the most loved public figures, people who have changed the world for the better, still have entire groups of people who despise them. And if people that impactful can't escape hate, what makes us think we can? The danger though isn't in being disliked. The real danger is when you don't even realize why. Because when hate hides itself behind a smile, when people act friendly but quietly resent you, that's when it can hurt the most. Maybe you've been in that situation where someone acts distant for no clear reason. They laugh at your jokes, but you feel their tone is off. They agree with you in conversation, but you can tell they're holding back. You leave wondering, did I say something wrong? Did I make them uncomfortable? That uncertainty eats at you more than open conflict ever could. But here's the comforting part. It's not always about you. A lot of the time their dislike is a mirror of what they feel about themselves. Your presence might highlight something they're insecure about, something they don't want to admit, and while they'll never say it out loud, their behavior gives it away. So instead of beating yourself up over it, remember this: if you've ever felt secretly hated, you're not alone. It happens to everyone at some point, no matter how good their intentions are. The question isn't how to avoid being disliked. That's impossible. The real question is, can you recognize the hidden reasons behind it before they start affecting your energy, your relationships, and your self-worth? That's exactly what we're going to uncover together. Jealousy of success. One of the most common hidden reasons people secretly hate you is jealousy. And the tricky thing about jealousy is that it rarely comes out in the open. Most people won't admit, I'm jealous of you, because that would mean confronting their own insecurities. Instead, they'll mask it as sarcasm, passive-aggressive comments, or fake support that doesn't feel genuine. When you achieve something, whether it's a new job, a promotion, a relationship, or even just a glow-up in your confidence, it can trigger people around you. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your success shines a light on the areas where they feel stuck. Your growth reminds them of their lack of growth. Your progress becomes a mirror, and what they see reflected back isn't always pretty. Think about it. Maybe you've shared good news, and instead of celebrating, someone made a backhanded joke, or they downplayed your achievement by saying it wasn't a big deal. That's jealousy in disguise. It's not about your accomplishment being small, it's about them feeling small in comparison, and the more you rise, the more their quiet resentment grows. But here's the key, you can't let their jealousy dim your light. Too often, people shrink themselves, staying silent about their wins, just to avoid making others uncomfortable. But you don't owe it to anyone to play small. The people who truly support you will clap for you, even when they're struggling. The ones who secretly hate you for your success, that's not your burden to carry. It's important to understand that jealousy is usually less about you, and more about the inner battles they're fighting. Maybe they feel left behind, maybe they regret choices they made, maybe they simply don't believe they can achieve what you did. Whatever the reason, their hate is a projection, not a reflection of your worth. So if you notice people acting distant or negative when you're doing well, don't immediately assume you've done something wrong. Sometimes their problem is that you're proof it can be done, and that makes it harder for them to justify why they haven't done it yet. In that sense, their hate is really an unspoken compliment. It means you're doing something worth noticing. Confidence misread as arrogance. Confidence is one of the most magnetic traits a person can have. When you walk into a room with your head held high, when you speak with certainty, or when you carry yourself like you know your value, people notice. But here's the catch, not everyone sees confidence for what it really is. Some people misread it, twisting your self-assurance into arrogance. Why does this happen? Because many people are uncomfortable with self-confidence, even in themselves. They've been taught to downplay their abilities, to stay quiet, to avoid drawing attention. So when they see someone who isn't afraid to take up space, who speaks without apologizing, it unsettles them. Instead of thinking, wow, that person believes in themselves, they think, who do they think they are? And the truth is, you don't even have to brag to trigger this reaction. You could simply be secure in your choices, make eye contact, or express your opinion clearly, and some people will take it the wrong way. They'll whisper that you're full of yourself, or think you're better than everyone else, when in reality, you're just refusing to shrink down. It's important to remember that this misinterpretation says more about them than about you. Often, people who call others arrogant are struggling with their own insecurities. Your confidence reminds them of the confidence they wish they had, so instead of working on themselves, they project negativity onto you. But here's the twist. You can't control how people perceive you. If you try too hard to appear humble, just to please others, you'll end up silencing yourself and losing the very confidence that makes you strong. And on the flip side, if you overcompensate by proving you're not arrogant, you'll just feed into their false assumptions. The best approach, keep being confident without apology. Because the truth is, confidence isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. It's knowing your worth, without needing external validation. People who misunderstand that will label you unfairly, but that doesn't change the reality of who you are. In fact, the louder they complain about your supposed arrogance, the clearer it becomes that what they really feel is threatened. And sometimes, being misunderstood is just the price you pay for standing tall. Your too honest honesty is often praised as one of the best qualities a person can have, but in reality, not everyone can handle it. There's a reason people say, the truth hurts. When you're someone who speaks openly, who doesn't sugarcoat, and who tells it like it is, you naturally trigger people who aren't ready to face certain truths, and that can quietly turn into resentment, or even hate. Think about it. Most people prefer comfort over reality. They want to hear what feels good, not what's real. So when you tell a friend their relationship is toxic, or you point out a bad habit they've been ignoring, they might laugh it off on the outside, but inside, they feel attacked. Not because you were wrong, but because deep down, they know you were right. Your honesty becomes a mirror, and mirrors are uncomfortable for people who don't want to see their reflection. The interesting part is, you might not even mean to be brutal. You're just being straightforward, trying to help, or simply expressing what others are too afraid to say. But to the person hearing it, your words can sting, and that sting often turns into quiet resentment. Instead of appreciating your honesty, they start labeling you as harsh, rude, or insensitive. This is why some people secretly hate those who are honest. They feel exposed. They'd rather surround themselves with people who not agree and keep the truth buried. And when you break that pattern, you become the uncomfortable reminder that forces them to confront reality. But here's what you need to know. Honesty is rare, and while it may cost you relationships with people who can't handle it, it also builds trust with those who value it. The people who stick around despite your honesty, those are the ones worth keeping, because they understand that your words come from clarity, not cruelty. So yes, being too honest can make people resent you, but it can also free you from fake connections. At the end of the day, you can't control how others receive your truth. You can only decide whether you'd rather be respected for your honesty or liked for your silence. And that choice, in itself, is powerful. You set boundaries. One of the quickest ways to make people secretly hate you is by setting boundaries. At first it sounds strange. Why would anyone dislike you for protecting your own time, energy, or peace? But the truth is, people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will always take it personally when you finally start saying no. Think about it. Maybe you were the person who always said yes to favors, who dropped everything to help, or who tolerated disrespect just to keep the peace. People get used to that version of you. They start expecting it, almost as if it's their right. But the moment you change the pattern and decide, I don't have the time, or I'm not okay with that, the dynamic shifts. And instead of respecting your growth, some people will feel threatened by it. That's because boundaries expose the truth about relationships. They reveal who values you, and who only valued what you could give them. A real friend, or a healthy partner, will understand and even appreciate your limits. But someone who only stuck around because of your endless yes will see your no as rejection, even betrayal. Their quiet hate doesn't come from your boundary itself. It comes from losing the control they once had over you. This is why setting boundaries can be so uncomfortable at first. You might feel guilty. You might feel like you're pushing people away. But the truth is, the ones who secretly start hating you for it were never really for you to begin with. They were for your compliance, your availability, your silence. And here's the empowering part. Boundaries don't drive away the right people. They filter out the wrong ones. If someone resents you for protecting your peace, they've shown you their true colors. And while their hate might sting in the moment, it's a sign that you're no longer available to be used. So yes, setting boundaries can make people secretly dislike you, but it also forces them to face the fact that you're no longer playing by their rules. And in the long run, that's one of the strongest forms of self-respect you can ever show. You shine without trying. Some people will hate you for one simple reason. You shine without even trying. Maybe it's your natural charisma, the way you carry yourself, or the fact that people are naturally drawn to your presence. It could be a talent you have, a way with words, or even just the energy you bring into a room. Whatever it is, you don't have to force it. It's just who you are. And that effortless glow can stir resentment in those who feel like they have to fight for the attention you get naturally. This kind of hate is tricky, because it's not about anything you're doing wrong. In fact, you could be humble, kind, and low-key, and people would still resent the fact that others gravitate toward you. It's not your fault. You can't turn off your natural gifts. But for someone who struggles to be noticed, who feels invisible, your shine can make them feel even smaller. Maybe you've experienced this before. You walk into a group setting, and suddenly the energy shifts toward you. People want to hear your opinion, they laugh at your comments, or they just feel comfortable around you. To you it feels normal, but to someone watching from the sidelines it feels unfair. They start thinking, why do they get all the attention? What do they have that I don't? And instead of working on their own presence, they quietly build resentment toward yours. The irony is, You're not trying to take the spotlight. You're just being yourself. But when someone is deeply insecure, even your natural light feels like a threat. It exposes what they believe they lack, and so their silent dislike grows not because of anything malicious you've done, but because you remind them of their own shadows. Here's the thing though, you should never dim your shine to make others comfortable. If your natural energy draws people in, that's a gift. The right people will celebrate it, the wrong people will envy it. And often the silent hate you sense from others is nothing more than proof that you have something special they wish they had. Your glow doesn't take away from anyone else's. It simply reveals who's secure enough to stand beside it. You challenge their beliefs. Another reason people may secretly hate you is because your very presence, or the opinions you express, challenges the way they see the world. Most people like to live inside a comfortable bubble of beliefs. Those beliefs might come from how they were raised, the culture around them, or simply habits of thinking they've never questioned. And when you say or do something that doesn't fit their worldview, it can feel threatening, even if you didn't mean it that way. It's not always about arguing or debating. Sometimes it's subtle. Maybe you live your life differently, choosing a career path they would never dare to take, handling relationships in a way that goes against what they believe, or expressing values that conflict with theirs. Just by existing as proof that another way is possible, you make them uncomfortable. Because if your path works, it forces them to ask themselves, have I been wrong all this time? And here's the truth. Most people don't want to face that kind of question. They'd rather defend their comfort zone than admit their beliefs might not be the ultimate truth. So instead of reflecting, they redirect that discomfort into dislike. On the surface, they may criticize you, argue with you, or dismiss you as naive or misguided. But beneath it, what they're really fighting against is the fear that you've revealed cracks in the foundation of what they believe. It's important to understand that challenging someone's beliefs doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you've touched a nerve. In fact, the people who hate you most strongly for it are often the ones who secretly feel the pull of your perspective, but are too afraid to admit it. This type of hate isn't really about you. It's about the inner battle they're having with themselves. And if your words or actions spark that battle, don't be surprised if they project that struggle onto you. The key is not to silence yourself just to avoid triggering others, because growth only happens when beliefs are questioned. And sometimes the silent hate you face is proof that you're shaking someone's comfort zone, and that can be one of the most powerful impacts you'll ever make. You don't need their validation. One of the most threatening qualities you can have in the eyes of certain people is independence. The kind of independence that comes from not needing their approval, attention, or validation to feel complete. For people who thrive on control, this is unsettling. They're used to others seeking their opinion, chasing their approval, or depending on their recognition. But when you operate on your own terms, it removes the power they thought they had over you, and for some that loss of control quietly turns into resentment. Think about it. How often do people base their decisions on what others will think? How often do they crave compliments, likes, or verbal reassurance just to feel good about themselves? So when you step into the picture as someone who doesn't wait for permission, who doesn't crumble without applause, it shakes them. Your independence is a reminder of their dependence, and that contrast can sting. This type of silent hate shows up in subtle ways. Maybe they downplay your choices, saying things like, "Are you sure that's the right move?" or "I don't think you can really pull that off." It's not always genuine concern. Sometimes it's an attempt to reassert their influence, to pull you back into a space where their validation matters. When you don't take the bait, their frustration only grows. What they don't realize is that not needing validation doesn't mean you're cold or disconnected. It simply means you've built self-respect and self-trust. You've learned that your worth isn't defined by other people's opinions, And that kind of strength is rare. People who haven't found it yet may see your independence as arrogance or rebellion, when in reality it's just freedom. The bottom line is this: if your independence makes people uncomfortable, it's because they're not ready to face how much they still depend on others. Their dislike is really just a reflection of their own insecurity, and while they may secretly hate you for not needing them, it's also proof that you've reached a level of strength they haven't yet. In that way, their resentment isn't something to fear, it's a sign that your self-reliance is more powerful than they'd like to admit. You trigger their insecurities. Sometimes the reason people secretly hate you has nothing to do with what you've done and everything to do with what you make them feel about themselves. You might not even realize it, but just by being who you are, you can highlight someone else's insecurities. Maybe it's the way you look, the way you carry yourself, the skills you've developed, or even the peace you have within. To you it's normal, to them it's a reminder of what they feel they're lacking. This is one of the most hidden forms of resentment because it doesn't always show up as obvious dislike. Instead, it can come across as small jabs, subtle comparisons, or even fake support. For example, they might compliment you, but add a little dig like, "You look good but don't get too confident." Or they might dismiss your achievements with excuses like, "Well, you just got lucky." These are signs that deep down your presence is poking at a part of them they don't feel good about. The truth is, people carry silent battles inside, insecurities about their looks, intelligence, success, or relationships. And when you show up with qualities that touch those raw spots, you unintentionally become a mirror. You don't even have to say a word. Just existing as proof that something is possible can trigger their frustration. And instead of dealing with their own insecurities, it's easier for them to project that discomfort onto you in the form of dislike. But here's the empowering part: you are not responsible for someone else's insecurities. You can be kind, humble, and respectful, and some people will still resent you simply because they can't stand what they see in themselves when they look at you. That's their burden, not yours. So if you ever feel like someone dislikes you without a clear reason, remind yourself it may not be about who you are, but about what you reflect back to them. In fact, triggering insecurities often means you're showing qualities they secretly admire but can't admit, and while their hate may feel unfair, it's often just proof that you're living in a way they wish they could. Closing reflection. Here's the truth that most people never realize: being secretly hated isn't always about your flaws. It's not always about what you did wrong, or about some mistake you need to fix. More often than not, it's about what your presence awakens in others. You might be a mirror to their insecurities, a reminder of their unfulfilled dreams, or proof that it's possible to live differently than they've dared to try. And when people are forced to confront those uncomfortable truths, hate becomes their defense mechanism. That means the quiet dislike you sense from others might not be a warning that you're failing. It could actually be a sign that you're on the right path. Think about it: if you weren't making an impact, no one would feel strongly about you at all. Indifference is what people feel toward those who don't matter to them. But hate, even in silence, it means you stirred something. It means you're visible. It means you've touched a nerve. And sometimes that's exactly what happens when you're growing, evolving, and refusing to stay small. Of course, it doesn't always feel good. None of us enjoy being disliked. It can make you question yourself, doubt your choices, or even feel guilty for shining too brightly. But you need to remember this: their reaction is not your responsibility. You can't control how people see you, only how you carry yourself. And if your presence bothers them, it says more about their inner world than it does about your character. So instead of shrinking down to avoid hate, stand taller. Instead of softening your edges to fit in, sharpen them into the tools that carve your path forward. Because the very things that make people secretly resent you are often the same things that make you powerful, magnetic, and unique. At the end of the day, being hated in silence is just another sign that you're doing something worth noticing. And if their discomfort comes from your growth, your honesty, your confidence, or your independence, then let it. Because that hate isn't proof that you're wrong, it's proof that you're doing something right. Which of these reasons do you think applies to you the most? Maybe people have misunderstood your confidence, maybe your honesty rubbed someone the wrong way, or maybe you've noticed how your success triggered jealousy in others. Whatever it is, I want you to take a second and really reflect on it. Drop your answer down in the comments. I want to see how many of you have actually felt this before, because chances are more people relate to you than you realize. Your story might even help someone else who's dealing with the same thing right now. And here's the thing. This conversation doesn't stop here. These hidden truths about human behavior affect every single one of us every day, often without us even realizing it. The more you understand them, the more clarity you gain about your relationships, your growth, and even yourself. That's why I make these videos, to give you the kind of insights most people never say out loud, but we all secretly need to hear. So if you've made it this far, that means you care about uncovering the deeper side of life, not just the surface. And I promise you there's so much more to come. If you want more videos that expose these hidden dynamics, that help you see through yourself and others with sharper eyes, then make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Don't wait because you don't want to miss what's coming next. Now it's your turn. Share your thoughts below, join the conversation, and subscribe so we can keep diving into these truths together. Because the more you learn about why people act the way they do, the more power you have to rise above it. And that's a journey worth taking.